The procession with the cross from Kamyanets-Podilskyi to the Pochaev Lavra has been held for 2 centuries. Believers leave immediately after the celebration of the Transfiguration and, having covered 250 kilometers, come to the Lavra on the eve of the Assumption of the Most Holy Theotokos. In 2022, given the war in Ukraine, everything is more complicated. While in previous years several tens of thousands of people would walk in the procession, this year it was no more than 8,000. While in previous years crosswalkers had to fight only with heat and fatigue, this year they are opposed by the authorities and activists. It is precisely like in 2016, when huge columns of the all-Ukrainian cross procession for peace in Ukraine were heading to Kiev to celebrate the day of the baptism of Rus. Then the mass media pumped out fakes, local authorities forbade the believers to pass through their cities, the police announced the roads were mined, and radicals staged attacks, pelting icons with eggs. Now the magnitude of the struggle is different, but the methods are absolutely the same. Moreover, the same are the ideologisms, the team of the ex-president. The next day after the procession left Kamyanets, MP of Poroshenko's Euro-Solidarity Party, Vladimir Ariev, said that the believers were allegedly carrying tricolors and there were saboteurs among them, just like in 2016 when the fake mongers told about St. George's ribbons and flags of Russia among the crosswalkers. True though, the head of the Kamyanets military administration, Sergei Gamali, refuted the current fake about the tricolors, but this did not make any difference. Other scenarios of 2016 soon followed. Then the deputies of Borispil impeded the procession, now those of Volochysk. A group of people led by Kamyanets Regional Council deputy from Poroshenko's Euro-Solidarity Party Alina Koval blocked the way for believers. Koval says that in previous years she would supply the participants of the procession with porridge and tea, but now it has become dangerous. How? It turns out the UOC allegedly prays in Russian and does not recognize the oku.
Вони продовжують наполягати на своїй канонічності, на тому, що Православна Церква України – це не є, це самозванна церква в їхніх устах, про те, що вони мають право молитися російською.
Koval ends with a call to ban the UOC. For what? So that the activists blocking the religious procession would not have to block the religious procession because it is allegedly dangerous for them.
Нам потрібен закон про заборону Московського патріархату в Україні, про заборону діяльності диверсійної церкви. Для чого? Саме для того, щоб не було отаких ситуацій, коли люди самостійно збираються, не даючи можливості зайти у їхні населені пункти.
Yet the incident with the activists in Volochysk was not single. Similar bunches went out to block roads in Zbaraj and Lanivtsi districts of the Ternopil region. 15-20 people stood against many thousands. Believers chanted "Christ is risen," while their opponents cursed them in response. As a result, the procession had to change its direction and walk tens of extra kilometers across the fields. More often than not, such blockades were organized by OKU members.
Сегодня утром громада одна приготовила кушать, то есть еду для завтрака к крестному ходу. Но ихняя местная громада во главе со священником ПЦУ просто не выпустила. Значит, позвонили, сказали, что повалили деревья, подняли бучу, и просто мы были без завтрака.
In some villages along the route of the religious procession, the activists closed the wells and food stores before the pilgrims. In addition, in one place, believers were attacked with sticks. One of the activists took a thick stick and struck one of the crosswalkers, who was carrying a large cross on his head. The victim's head was seriously smashed. It would be unfair to say that the crosswalkers were blocked everywhere. Actually, there were just a few oddities. In most villages, the cross procession was awaited. But amazingly, when the believers were faced with curses, when they had to walk dozens of extra kilometers in the heat, absolutely all of them felt joy and a surge of power.
Та відчутно було таку благодать, як ніби ми вже ступали на поріг Почаївської лаври. Просто такий Дух Святий.
Нема
всі люди стали на
страху,
коліна.
немає
Перед ними, да?
Немає страху перед ними. Просто
Немає. Люди стають на коліна і
всередині.
сльози тобі течуть, просто течуть, ти не знаєш.
Від радості, а вони не розуміють чого. Вони не розуміють. Бо ми йдемо з молитвою, і вони не розуміють.
А чому? Тому що ми під покровом матінки Божої.
Є спортсмени, які йдуть, якщо йдуть без молитви, вони просто сходять з маршрута. А тут жіночки, ви бачили цих жінок, 60-70 років, 75 з колясками, діти є годовалі, вони несуть, люди моляться, щоб Господь помилував нас. Молитвами, і просто їм видно, що Богородиця і Господь підтримує цих людей, і це нереально. Просто людина сама по собі, вона не може пройти отак от з ходу. Бо якщо вирвати його з машини, з офісу вирвати, він з ходу не зможе пройти в день 35, 45, 50 кілометрів.
Drawing on the example of how radicals and OCUM members treat the crosswalkers, the latter say why they will never be able to be part of Dumenko's structure.
Ми туди ніколи в житті не прийдемо, бо тут тепло, любов, благодать, якої там за кружку води ніколи не було. За кружку води, ви розумієте? За криницю, яку закривали, за гадості, які писали. І коли там 20 чоловік кричить, верещить, що ми вас не пустимо, то готові йти за Бога, за хресний хід 40 кілометрів обхід, 50, 60, 70.
Still, the religious procession reached the Pochaevskaya Lavra. However, the authorities have to draw conclusions from the disgrace when a handful of the inadequate chased women with children and old men across fields and ravines despite the fact that these people did not commit a single offense. In the Gospel, there are very eloquent words that Christ said to the apostles, sending them to preach in the world. And if any place will not welcome you or listen to you, leave that place and shake the dust off your feet as testimony against them. Truly, I tell you, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. Our country is considered Christian. The authorities like to pose in temples and demonstrate their piety. But when Christians are chased, humiliated and beaten in the terrible times of war, one needs to think about it. These atrocities were initiated by the former government officials, though they are not at the helm now.
Просто хочеться звернутися до нашої і влади, яка допускає оце вищення, яке происходить іменно на цій землі в таке страшне время, і допускає оцей безлад. Це, вибачте, як кажуть, здівательство над нами, над нашою вірою, розпинання Ісуса Христа. Ми в цьому хресному ходу просимо всі православні, у всіх вибачення і бажаємо всім просто здоров'я, Божої благодаті і покаяння.
If those who have really undertaken the difficult feat of prayer are persecuted in our country, if people of faith are humiliated, then the future of this country and its victory in this bloody war is in question. Even the godless Soviet authorities turned to the church for help at the beginning of the war with Nazis. In our case, everything is on the contrary. Therefore, our authorities need to think hard about it. Otherwise, everything can end very sadly. And this is not what we journalists are predicting. This is what Christ predicts.